Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today I'm going to be going over the 10 best budget vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. So this list is going to consist of vehicles that are really good for the price that they cost, especially compared to other vehicles that do a similar sort of thing, but may cost a lot more money. So I've got some pretty good selections on this list. I'm actually pretty excited about this one. And before we get into the video, if you guys enjoy, a like is of course appreciated. If not, dislike, of course. Consider subscribing. I'm going for 300,000 subs this year and I need your help to get there. And let's go ahead and get started, starting off with number 10. At number 10, we got the Pegasi Toros, coming in at $498,000. And up until pretty recently, this was the fastest SUV in Grand Theft Auto Online, at least on last gen, so PC, PS4, and Xbox One. But even on new generation consoles with HSW vehicles like the Pfister Astron Custom HSW, the Toro still could give it a little bit of a run for its money. And for less than $500,000, getting what is effectively a Lamborghini Urus, basically the closest thing we're ever going to get to one in GTA Online at least, is a really good deal. And then when you consider the fact that it's got one of the highest top speeds out of any SUV in GTA Online, topping out at around 128 miles per hour, with somewhat decent handling, all-wheel drive, and good customization, you really start to see just how good this thing is. Now, still to this day, this is technically, I believe, the 4th fastest SUV in GTA Online when it comes to racing on circuits. Now, if you're doing a drag race, you might get a little bit of a different result. On track, the Taurus is still pretty darn quick. In fact, in a straight line, I think it's actually faster than some of the other SUVs that are ahead of it. But the Taurus is really awesome. Now, it is a bit of a big SUV. It does also have some slight handling issues. A lot of people don't really love how this thing handles, and I can kind of see why. It does feel a little bit loose on the rear end of the vehicle. It doesn't seem to really stick to the ground and plant itself very well, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. Overall, it's a really good SUV. It does get a lot of wheel spin off the line, which is unfortunate, but beyond that, it's pretty good in almost every single category and every single way. I would definitely recommend a Pegasi Toros. For under 500k, you literally cannot go wrong with this vehicle. Next up at number 9, we have a fan favorite. Of course, we have the Pegasi Zentorno, another Pegasi vehicle on this list, coming in at $725,000. Now, I think everybody pretty much is aware that the Pegasi Zentorno is a really good deal as far as bang for your buck goes and, getting good value for your money. The Zentorno is still an awesome supercar to this day. In fact, I believe it's within the top 20 or 25 fastest supercars in the game when it comes to racing on circuits, so stunt racing or just regular circuit racing in GTA Online. It's really good. And for free mode, obviously that also translates and means it's going to be really good in free mode too. So it's pretty awesome. And then with the Criminal Enterprises DLC that came out in the summer of 2022, the Pegasi Zentorno got some additional customization options for it as well, allowing you to customize this thing way more than you initially could when it first released back with the High Life DLC in like 2014 or 2015. Pretty crazy to think about. Now, it does have all-wheel drive. It's got a pretty high top speed of around 127-ish miles per hour, and the handling is pretty phenomenal on this thing. It feels really good through the corners. Very planted, very stable, and it is just a very cool looking car, being based largely off of the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento in real life. Now, I don't want to hear this slander that this thing is based off of the Veneno. There's these guys, I gotta address this, bro. People have been saying this car is the Lamborghini Veneno for years and years and years, and there's one spoiler option that makes it kind of resemble the Lamborghini Veneno, but beyond that, this thing screams Sesto Elemento. Now, I think that people think it's the Veneno because the Veneno is a lot more of a popular Lamborghini product. It's a lot more well-known than the Sesto Elemento, but 100% this thing is based off of the Sesto Elemento primarily, with a couple of elements of the Lamborghini Veneno added to it as well. I just had to go off right there right quick because I've been seeing that shit for way too long and it's time to set the record straight. Don't disrespect Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. It's one of the coolest cars ever made and I'm sick of that shit, so quit that shit. Next up at number 8, we got the Mobile Operation Center. Now, this thing does cost $1,225,000 for the initial price of the vehicle, but you do get access to a lot of stuff, and with some additional upgrades, you can make this thing even better. But the reason that I've included it on this list is because it is the most armored vehicle in the game, being the MOC cab, the cab that tows the MOC. which is the Phantom Custom. Now, the Phantom Custom is pretty insane. This thing can take 67 homing missiles and a ton of RPGs. I want to say it's like 32, something like that. Just crazy to think about. This thing has so much armor. It is so useful for PvPing in GTA Online and just keeping yourself protected for that matter as well. Like, this thing will take 3 full Oppressor Mark IIs, hitting every single missile, and then they're going to have to get a 4th one and hit you with an additional 7 missiles straight. Basically, you're never going to die in an MOC cap. This thing is so well armored. It can also hold 4 players, which is interesting. You can have like 2 guys standing out on the rear wheels, which is kind of crazy. But a good thing with this thing as well is that surprisingly, it's not that slow. Like, it's not fast either, but it's not that slow. But you can also reverse at people, at your, adversaries or opponents, and you can shoot them through the back of the truck, whereas they cannot shoot you, and they certainly cannot blow you up either. So the MOC cab can be really, really useful. And then of course there's the MOC that it tows, which can have a vehicle upgrade workshop as well as a weapon workshop in it. So you can upgrade things like the Insurgent Pickup into the Insurgent Pickup Custom, the HVY APC, various other vehicles like that, for example, and it's just really, really good. It also has access to turrets too, and the turrets do a crazy amount of damage. Overall, the MOC for $1,225,000, I actually feel like that is quite a steal. Now, unfortunately, you will need to own a bunker in order to store it, but the bunker is a really good business anyway, so you should own that in the first place. Next up at number 7, we got the Bravado Greenwood, costing $1,098,750. If you got the trade price, and if you don't, it's going to run you $1,465,000. This is the cheapest Imani Tech vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online, or at least the cheapest Imani Tech capable vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. So for those of you who have an agency with a vehicle workshop, you can buy a Bravado Greenwood and take it in there, customize it, and you can put on armor plating. So this thing can take 4 RPGs or I believe 8 homing missiles. And then you can also add on the missile lock-on jammer so that people cannot lock onto your vehicle. Primarily this is used to defend yourself from Oppressor Mark IIs, as I'm sure many of you are aware. But the Bravado Greenwood is a super cheap way to get into the Imani Tech game in GTA Online, and I think for early game players this is actually a really good investment, and it actually has pretty decent performance to begin with. It is within the muscle car category, and within that category it's not the fastest car ever by any means, but as far as free mode protection goes and just driving around in free mode, you can't really go wrong with the Greenwood. It's got decent enough handling, it's got pretty good acceleration, it has a wheelie, and the top speed is not bad either, as well as it has a plethora of customization options for it too. So the Greenwood's an awesome vehicle. I never see anybody driving it. I think it's definitely something that you guys should look into if you're trying to ball on a budget and get into the Imani Tech game without having to put up a ton of money. Next up at number 6, we have the Karen Armored Kuruma, costing $525,000 to $698,250 if you don't have the trade price. Now, I'm assuming that most people already know about the Karen Armored Kuruma, but basically this thing is effectively 99% bulletproof. There's very few places where the occupants inside of it can actually be hit by enemies shooting at you. This makes it very good against NPCs primarily, or people that have small arms fire. Now, unfortunately against explosives, it's useless. It does not even take 1 explosive before blowing up. So if you're fighting players, this is probably not going to be the vehicle for you. But for getting missions completed and stuff like that pretty easily, the Karen Armored Kuruma is actually a pretty good vehicle to have. It's also all-wheel drive, has a decent launch as well as decent acceleration, an alright top speed, and unfortunately the handling isn't my favorite with the Karen Armored Kuruma. I will say though it is better than about 80% of other vehicles in GTA Online, so it's not that bad, but it just could be a little bit better. Sometimes the handling balance just feels really off to me and I'm not really a fan of that, but it is still a good car and it's very hard to deny that. However, next up we do have the Imponte Duke of Death, and this is a free vehicle available on Warstock Cash and Carry, and it kind of achieves the same thing as the Armored Kuruma except within the muscle category, and it's only a 2-seater, as well as it is far less bullet resistant. However, it is explosive resistant, being able to take 1 before blowing up, and the second one will blow it up. The Imponte Duke of Death doesn't have the best handling. In fact, I would say it's way worse than the Armored Kurumas, but being that it's free and it gives you access to, some armor, a little bit of bullet resistance, it's pretty good in missions. I think this is a decent vehicle and it's hard to go wrong with it because of course it is free. It has a pretty high top speed, it's got decent enough acceleration, the launch is a little bit on the weaker side, but generally I would say it is quite a good vehicle, and it is one that you guys should be picking up if you don't have one already by some miracle. At number 4, we have the HVY Night Shark, coming in at $1,245,000, being easily the most expensive vehicle on the list, coming in at, $20,000 more than the Mobile Operations Center. Now, the HVY Night Shark does get driver controlled front-mounted machine guns, and these are effectively beanbag shooters. They don't really do anything. However, that's not why you're buying the Night Shark, although it is an added bonus, a small one at that. You're basically buying this thing though because it has pretty good armor. It can take 27 homing missiles or 9 RPGs, which is relatively good armor. And it's also super fast with all-wheel drive, so it accelerates super hard and launches very well. It also looks pretty cool and has a decent amount of customization, and you can customize it at anywhere you want. So you don't need to own a special vehicle in order to customize it or anything like that. You can simply take it to Los Santos Customs and upgrade it there. It's a pretty cool vehicle. It's definitely something that I would look into, and it is very, very good against the Presser Mark IIs. Now, I know it is over $1 million, which is kind of not super budget friendly, but it is still a really good vehicle nonetheless, and I do feel like for the price that it costs, you are getting a lot of value out of the vehicle. Next up at number 3, we got the Pegassi Bati 801RR, coming in at $15,000. Now, a lot of you probably expected to see this bike on the list, or maybe some of you didn't, but for 15 grand, you get the Bati 801RR, which is one of the very fastest motorcycles still to this day in GTA Online, and this thing will allow you to complete the time trials every single week. This thing is awesome. It's super fast. I believe it's like the 6th, 7th, 8th fastest motorcycle in the game, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's still really, really quick, and only $15,000. Now, you will have to upgrade it obviously to get the most performance out of it, but you can get the time trial done every single day with this thing. And that's going to pay you 100 grand a day. So the ROI on this bike is crazy, and it's definitely something that I would recommend looking into for sure, 100%. At number 2, we got the Enos Paragon R Armored. Now, this thing is free after you complete the casino story missions with Miss Baker, and I believe there are 6 of them. And then once you've completed the 6th one, this thing will show up at the docks, and you can go down there and pick it up and keep it as a personal vehicle. Now, unfortunately, this thing's not purchasable at all in any way. You have to do the casino story missions in order to get it. Now, of course, this thing is based off of a Bentley Continental GT in real life, but it is an armored variant of one, and it does have front-mounted machine guns, which deal a fair amount of damage, actually. It looks awesome, the customization is fantastic, and it has armor plating, and it can take 2 explosives before blowing up, which is really, really good. This thing is absolutely awesome. The performance is great too because it is based off of the Enos Paragon R, which is a sports car, and it has nearly identical performance, albeit a little tiny bit worse. The Paragon R Armored though is definitely worth trying to get for sure, guys. Complete those casino story missions. You will not regret getting this vehicle. Now for some honorable mentions, you knew I had to mention this first one, and that is of course the LG RH8, coming in at free. It's based off of the Nissan R35 GTR. It's got a lot of customization, and of course it can be turned into the Annis Elegy Retro Custom as well. The Nissan Skyline R32 or R33, depending on which angle you're looking at on the vehicle, which is one of the most customizable cars in the entire game through Benny's. So that's really awesome. The LG RH8 though, the free version, is very, very good performance-wise as well. It is still one of the very fastest sports cars in the game, somewhere within the top 15 or 20 for circuit racing. It's crazy fast, it's really good. The customization's fairly awesome for it being an old car. It's an awesome vehicle. You should definitely own one. It's free. Why not? For our next honorable mention, we have the HVY Insurgent, and the reason this is here is because it's really cheap for how much armor you're getting and general performance. Costing only $675,000 once you have the trade price, and just under $900,000 if you do not have the trade price. This thing can take about 8 RPGs, and it can take about 20 homing missiles, maybe 21 or 22 depending on where it gets hit. So it's really awesome, and if you can get that trade price and get this thing for 675 grand, you can't go wrong with it. It can hold 6 players, it has really good armor, and it will plow other vehicles out of your way, and it's just generally a lot of fun to have. Really good vehicle, definitely look into it. And for the last honorable mention, we have the Benefactor Shafter V12, coming in at $116,000. This is the fastest or second fastest sedan class vehicle in GTA Online, as well as having one of the very highest top speeds in the game for that same class. Now on tracks with bigger straightaways, this thing will definitely come out on top. However, on other tracks that are a little bit more twisty, this thing will be an easy second place in the sedans category. Now this is also a unique vehicle because it's in sedans as well as the sports car category, so it is raceable in either, which is really neat. Very unique as well. Not much in the way of customization, but you're getting a lot of performance and a very good engine sound for the low price of only $116,000. This is definitely one that I would recommend. And at number 1, we of course have the Brigade 6x6/Acid Lab. This thing's going to cost you $750,000 to buy it after you complete the first dose missions from the Los Santos Drug Wars DLC, which will pay you a decent amount of money and actually make this cost maybe go down to about $500,000 or so. It's really good. The Acid Lab is the second most armored vehicle in the game, being able to take 48 homing missiles from an Oppressor Mark II, as well as nearing 30 RPGs, I do believe it is. I think it's like 27 or something like that, which is crazy. It's really good, and on top of that, it also has the Acid Lab contained within it, which can make you a ton of money. The Acid Lab is a really good business to have in GTA Online, and the Brigade 6x6 houses it, and it is certainly a good vehicle to have for the low price of $750,000. You can make that money back in a couple of acid sales. It will not be that hard to do, and on top of this, you also do get access to the Meibatsu Mancha Scout C, which comes with the Brigade 6x6, which is pretty awesome. So anyway, there you have it. Those are the 10 best budget vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online, plus a few honorable mentions. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you learned something, a like is of course appreciated. If not, dislike. Consider subscribing to my channel if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.